I'm Megan Skidmore. For 2.5 years, I have been talking about evolving faith journeys. I started to tire of the heaviness of this focus. I had the clear message come through. It is time for Beyond the Shadow of Doubt podcast to evolve into Living Beyond the Shadow of Doubt podcast. With the same vulnerability and unapologetic authenticity, I will be focusing on the joy in this journey, the life and the living that comes on the other side of maybe, on the other side of what's possible. I want to talk about claiming spiritual sovereignty and becoming your own captain of your vessel. Let's celebrate releasing what no longer aligns for you and connecting with your higher power and honor expanding your energy field to make room for all things new. Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode of Living Beyond the Shadow of Doubt. So grateful to have my friend Denita with me. Today we have, this has been in the works for a little while, so I'm really grateful that we made it happen. So welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Megan.
You are so welcome. I'm excited for our guests to get to know you a little better and your background and a little bit more about your faith journey and what that's been like and how you have maybe evolved, the role questions and doubts have played in that, and the ways in which you've claimed your spiritual autonomy and how that's brought you joy. So we'll just jump right in. If you can take a minute and just share a little bit about you with our guests.
Yeah, I'm Denita Bremer. I grew up, I was born in San Diego, but I grew up in Eastern Washington in a tiny little town called Oroville. Probably no one will know where that is because it's so small. Went to the rest of my schooling there, 0 to 18, went to university at the University of Washington in Seattle, met my husband there.
You did? I did not know that. That's so cool. See, I'm learning new things about you.
Yeah, and we have 3 kids, which are all almost grown. My youngest is about to turn 17 in a couple months. My middle child just graduated from high school. She's going to CU Boulder in the fall. And my oldest chose to go to university in the UK, and she's traveled around the world a bit. They're all home at the moment, so that is nice for a mother heart. And yeah, my mom was not a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. My dad was, but he was inactive my entire life and still is. And
can you just explain what you mean by inactive for those that are listening that are not of the LDS faith background?
Yes, he never went to church. He did not live by the standards of the church. He basically was like somebody who had never been a member, but his name was still and is still on the records of the church as a member of the church. So, and to give a little context, when I was born, my mom was 17 and my dad was 20. So they were very, very young.
Yes, they were.
Needed a lot of help financially growing up. It was always tight. And I came into the church and am a member of the church because of my grandparents.
Okay.
Who would take my sister and I to church on Sundays. But I kind of lived in the duality of grandma and grandpa believed this and lived this way, a very kind of conservative Christian lifestyle. But mom and dad very much did not. Were into drugs and alcohol. And so I lived both of those realities in my life. When I was a teenager, I stepped away from the church, primarily because I had started dating. And according to the standards of the church, we're not supposed to date, at least when I was a teenager, not supposed to date until you're 16. And I was 14 when I started dating. And my grandparents were very judgmental about that. And so instead of reconciling that in myself, which I don't think most teenagers would have the ability to do, I just decided I'm not going to go to church because it's too hard to be around them and they're very judgmental. when I went to university, I had known for a while, like it was about 5 or 6 years that I wasn't attending church, wasn't really living the standards. And I had known for a while that I wanted to go back, but it was kind of hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like after it was too hard in a tiny little town with a very tiny congregation to go back
Yeah.
there because I thought everyone would judge me.
How
And
many years
so,
had passed again?
well, when I started going back, it was like 5.5, something like
Okay.
that. Um, I tried to go back to church a couple times my freshman year of college, and I showed up at this like, you know, singles wards. I didn't really know. Like I grew up in this tiny little town with a little branch, and then I went to school in a big city,
Mm-hmm.
and so I didn't understand that there were multiple congregations that would meet in one building. I thought somebody would come up to
Um,
me and shake my hand and tell me where to go next, and they didn't. And so I would be like, okay, I'll come
oh,
back in a
okay.
few months, right? But I did eventually make my way back to church and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
have been very, very active and involved my entire adult life since then. So yeah, that's a little
That's
bit
really
about me.
fascinating. I didn't know that about you. I didn't know that about your parents and grandparents. And this was in Washington State that you grew up.
Yes.
And you're now, no, not in Washington State
No.
anymore.
Now, so I married that boy I met freshman year of
Okay.
college. He was not a member of the church, so that was a whole thing. And we lived in the Bay Area for very briefly, less than 3 years. And then we moved to the Denver area where we are now. We've been here for almost 19 years. That's where
Wow.
we raised our family. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we love it here.
That's great. That's really great. So you have the unique position of a- some of my guests that I've spoken with, they have had grandparents or other extended family that maybe introduced other faiths, whether regardless of whether they grew up in an I do interview a lot of folks from the LDS faith background, but there are plenty of others that are not. But so usually the combination is one faith as well as another faith, but you have this unique perspective of essentially the same religion, but you saw different ways of it being observed, we could say,
Yes. Yes.
in real time by people who were important to you, that you, we could say, tell me if I'm wrong, looked up to and loved
Yeah.
and
I
and
think
even
that's a fair
listened to.
assessment. Yes.
Hmm. So you talked about your teenage years. Sounds very teenagery, and I love it. Tell me about a little bit more in depth about your faith journey. Why you decided you wanted to begin to come back that
Yeah.
5+ years later.
Yeah. Well, first of all, personality wise, I think I am a person
Mm-hmm.
who my personality lends itself very well to having some kind of moral standard, some kind of moral compass. And I think looking back, I think I was attracted to that. I'm also an oldest daughter, so there's sort of that sense of like responsibility and doing the right thing. Um, but I would say looking back, even from a young age, because I started going to church with my grandparents when I was 6.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, I'm a convert because most of the members of our church that grow up in the church are baptized at the age of 8. I was 9. So if you
Huh.
are baptized beyond the age of 8, you're considered like a convert, which is, you know, how do I explain that? Like,
Oh, I think you did fine. It just
yeah,
means that you're considered to have converted to the faith rather than being born into
born
the
into the faith.
LDS
Yeah.
religion.
Yeah. So I think before my baptism, I can look back and kind of see how I was attracted to a religion, a belief system. So I think that's one factor. The second thing kind of goes back to an experience I had when I was 7 or 8 years old. I lived on my grandparents' property. So my grandparents had 20 acres. They built a house there, and my mom and dad My dad had lost his job when I was 6. They
Mm-hmm.
went to live with my grandparents, and they put kind of a mobile home trailer on the property. It was supposed to be temporary. It was temporary, but we lived there a couple of years. And during the summers, I was like my grandmother's little shadow. And I would just putter around with her. She did a lot of gardening, a lot of kind of household projects. She was retired, but newly retired. And this one day was very, very hot, but no wind. And so she decided to go spray some weeds. She wanted to spray some weeds. So she had this jug that she would put the weed killer in that had a screw top with a hose that she could
Oh
spray.
dear.
And she would put this jug, I think it was like a 2-gallon jug, so pretty large jug, into a wagon. And she would pull the wagon around the property and spray
Mm-hmm.
the weeds.
Mm-hmm.
And it must have been the first time of the summer that she was spraying weeds because we couldn't find the jug. We could find the wagon, we could find the top that screwed into the jug. She had the weed killer spray stuff, but we couldn't find the actual jug. And we looked, they had, my grandpa had a shop, like a wood shop. They had a garage, they had a
Mm-hmm.
carport, they had a shed, they had a barn. They had all these different places where it might be. And grandma and I went to all these places looking for this jug.
Mm-hmm.
And she gave up. She was frustrated and she said, "Oh, I'm going to go back to the house and make some lunch." And me being this, like, I don't know, I guess I would call myself like a sweet, innocent child. Again, I was 7 or 8 years old, really wanted to help her. So I decided that I was going to say a prayer
Mm-hmm.
and see if, I guess my thought was like God would answer my prayer and show me where this jug was. And that's exactly what happened. I told my grandma, I said, "Grandma, I'll be in just a minute." And I went around the side of the house to a little spot of shade, and I folded my arms and I bowed my head and I said a prayer that was something like, "Heavenly Father, I really want to help Grandma. Please show me where this jug is. Amen." Something like that. It was very short.
Very
And
sweet.
I immediately felt like I should go back to this shed. This little shed was probably, my guess is like 6 by 8 feet, something like
Mm-hmm.
that. It was a small building. And the door was open and it was full of all kinds of building materials and yard things. I'm pretty sure there was like a push lawnmower in there. And I just was scanning from starting at my right side over to my left side. And when I got to my left side, kind of looking at the back left corner of this shed, something inside of my body, it was not a
Mm-hmm.
thought. It was like a magnet pulling me toward that corner. And I just knew, I was like, it's back there. I couldn't see it,
Wow.
but I climbed over the lawnmower and I got back to this back corner and there was like a thin sheet of metal, kind of like a
Mm-hmm.
tin roof type of material. And I pulled it back and there sat this plastic jug with cobwebs all over it.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that that was what grandma was looking for. And I pulled it out and I carefully climbed back out and I ran up to the house and she was coming out of the door. And I said, "Look what I found." And she was like in awe. She was like, "Where did you find it?" "It was in the
Mm-hmm.
shed." I never told her that I said a prayer and that
Mm-hmm.
like like the spirit like manifested itself to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think in that moment, with that experience, it was kind of confirmed to my soul that God was real, that he knew me, that he
Mm-hmm.
answered my prayers. And so later on, when I decided to stop going to church because I felt judged, I literally was stepping away from the church, not from God. And so my testimony, my belief in a God, in a higher power, never wavered. But it was complicated because I was like, my grandparents don't like me right now. They don't agree with what I'm doing. They're judgmental. I don't want to be
Mm-hmm.
around that. So I really was consciously choosing to not be around them, which included going to church on Sunday. And I think the whole time, the 5 to 6 years that I wasn't attending church, inside of me, I was like, I should be at church. I should
Mm-hmm.
be at church.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I honestly wanted an option that didn't include going to church with my grandparents. And that just, in
Mm-hmm.
the small town I was in, that wasn't an option. And so when I went to college, I thought, oh, now, now I can go. Grandma and grandpa won't be there. It'll be like a fresh start.
Mm-hmm.
But really the whole time I had a sense that I wanted to be there, that God wanted me there,
Mm-hmm.
that that was my place. That was like
Mm-hmm.
in line with who I was.
Yeah. That's a beautiful story. And you said you were 8 or 9?
I don't remember exactly how old I was. I think I was
Okay.
7 or 8.
Okay. So you had this, we'll say, the beginnings of a foundation of your own relationship with the divine at a pretty early age. You talked about in your teenage years how you essentially took your power back for whatever reasons, right? I won't put them into your mouth for you, but you knew what aligned for you when it came to navigating those teenage years and the feelings that accompanied those and what you did want to feel and didn't want to feel like. And I was interested to note that you found the jug, but you kept kind of the process to yourself. And I'm coming from a place of that's interesting. That's curious to me that you didn't share it. And you were young, right? You were probably still trying to make sense of it yourself to some extent. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. I
Because
didn't even think to share it.
you didn't even think to share it. That's fair. So, can you speak to this idea of, when you realize that what you actually believe, what you actually feel on the inside, your inner being is different than maybe what's being handed to you or passed down to you, and it's not quite meshing, uh, um, meeting your needs, and so you're claiming your own way. Can you speak to that process for you? And my guess is that it has continued, didn't just happen in your younger years and in your teenage years. Um,
Yeah. The way I think of it is that we all have kind of a spirit or a higher self, but we also have this sort of human self, right?
mhm,
And I would say now I think I felt a lot of guilt starting to date and, like boys. My parents, my aunts and uncles did not have a great track record with this, right? Like my parents were not married ever. They
mhm,
had 3 kids together. I have aunts and uncles who accidentally got pregnant, like things like that. And so I think my grandparents were legitimately concerned,
mhm,
right? That I had this influence of my parents who got married very young. It really complicated their lives. And I think they wanted more and better for me. And, coming
mhm,
from their perspective, it was like, you don't have sex until you're married, but we can kind of see where this is going, right? You're starting to date when you're 14. Like, what are the odds you're gonna not have sex until you're married? I do think that they cared for me and
mhm,
wanted what was best, but how that presented in the moment was judgment, and I felt a lot of guilt. And I think part of that was like, I kind of knew. Like, I wasn't dumb, right? I
mhm,
knew that if I wanted to live the teachings that I was being involved in and, going to church every week, that I really shouldn't be dating at 14.
mhm,
But also, I had gone to my parents and talked to them about it, and they were like, well, go out on a date once or twice. If you don't like the guy, then just stop. And it seemed so simple. And and so the fact that my grandparents were like, we know you're dating that boy. And they were their emotions around it were so strong.
mhm,
It was a little confusing to me. Like I'm getting one
mhm,
message from my parents, another one from my grandparents. And the easy thing, I think, was to ignore my grandparents and to just do
mhm,
what I wanted to do what felt
mhm,
right. Having attention from a boy. This boy was actually 3 years older than me at the time.
mhm,
I can't even imagine what my parents were thinking letting me date him, but that is really attractive. Like that's flattering
mhm.
attention. right? And so it was
Yeah.
much easier for me to ignore my grandparents and call them old, crotchety old people, right? Than it
Yeah.
was for me to really listen to what might have been kind of my higher self.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm so thankful for it
Yeah.
because I really feel like many, many people who grow up with a religion being taught from their parents and grandparents, they don't have true agency the way I experienced agency. Like my
Mm-hmm.
parents literally could not care less if I went to church. And my grandparents were like, "We'd love you to come." It was
Mm-hmm.
my choice every single week. And then when I stopped going to church, it was like I was experiencing more of the side of what my parents were living. And like they would literally invite me, like, "Hey, get high with us. Hey, drink with us." And I had that choice, right? And so I feel like from a very young age, I really had true agency because
Mm-hmm.
it didn't feel like pressure. I mean, sometimes it felt a little bit like pressure, but it was more like these two invitations and that I got to choose which way to live.
Yeah.
At the
I
time, I mean, I think I was just doing whatever felt right in the moment, really.
mm-hmm.
But now that I have some hindsight and, I'm 45-year-old adult, I find it such a gift that that agency was really, really mine.
Every first Friday of the month, I offer a free coaching hour. Anyone is welcome to join, and you may leave your camera off and change your name if you would like to remain anonymous. This is an opportunity to get introduced to my style of holistic coaching and gain real skills, insight relevant to you, and fresh perspective on life circumstances. For those attending, there will be opportunities for a complimentary one-off energy alignment session. Register at the link in the show notes. Yeah. So if you're comfortable with this, let's fast forward then to more present day, Denita. And can you speak to the challenges or even struggles that you may have experienced that accompany when you talked about these very different energies, these different messagings that you were getting from parents versus grandparents? Ultimately, you listened to yourself and what felt right for you at the time. Fast forward to present day, or, when I say that, past few years, several years, whatever. How does, 45-ish-year-old Danita navigate those spaces now of feeling that
I
those
think,
conflicting energies? Yeah.
yeah, I think in the past few years, the biggest thing that has happened or that I've had to live through that has really been that similar kind of choice
Mhm.
has been a daughter of mine that is LGBTQ, right?
Okay, I
It's
didn't
actually my
know that,
oldest.
Danita.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah. So, having raised my own kids in this conservative Christian faith, because ultimately I chose to come back to church and to live the teachings and to really kind of throw myself into them and really
Mm-hmm.
choose church and God and faith. Early on, there was a lesson, a Sunday lesson that had asked, "Where did you get your testimony from? Were you borrowing it from someone?" And I immediately was like, "Yeah, I'm borrowing it from my grandparents." And I think I'm a pretty trusting and believing person.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was sort of a moment where I thought, yeah, I kind of do want my own testimony. I want to know for myself, not just that
Mm-hmm.
my grandparents told me and it made sense. And so, sure. And so, there are more spiritual experiences around that. But I raised my kids in this faith, and it's hard to be LGBTQ and LDS at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I recognize that. I recognize that she has to have her own journey of figuring out her faith and her relationship with God. And pretty soon, they just asked me, actually, my daughter and her girlfriend are here for the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And her girlfriend asked me if I ever struggled with knowing that my daughter was lesbian. And I said, not really, which isn't the entire truth. I mean, when she first came out to me, I feel like I reacted really well and I sort of let it sink in and, I had thoughts and feelings around it, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a short wrestle, I would say, because I quickly came to the realization that her journey is her journey and her relationship with God is her relationship with God, and that my job is just to love her. And for me, that was kind of an easy distinction to make. I know many, many people struggle with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I can pretty easily stay in my lane and I can have my faith and my practices and do what feels right to me. And I can let her do that and what feels right to her. And I'm kind of holding two things together, what I believe for myself,
Mm-hmm.
what I think is right for her, and what is my relationship toward her or my responsibility toward her. And my conclusion was the scriptures say to love God and love your neighbors. And
Mm-hmm.
my daughter is one of my neighbors. And it really doesn't say like you need to teach them or you need to, obviously we're taught to kind of share the gospel. But my realization was she knows the gospel,
Mm-hmm.
right? She was old enough. She was 16 at the time when she came out to me. And so I just thought she knows the gospel. She
Mm-hmm.
knows. And I think it in some ways paralleled my own journey, right? That I
Mm-hmm.
had more kind of two sets of influences, one way and the other. But I knew the gospel too. I had been going to church since I was 6 years old. And I think I could, like, because I had stepped away from the church and because that was such an important part of my journey in that agency, I could allow her to have that too. And I continue
Mm-hmm.
to allow her. And she's very um respectful
Mm-hmm.
of my beliefs and I'm respectful of hers and we have a great relationship. But I think that has been the experience that has been the most sort of, what do I choose here?
Yeah.
What direction do I go? And honestly, the hardest part of it has been watching my husband wrestle
Mm-hmm.
with that.
Mm-hmm.
He's a convert.
Mm-hmm.
And in many ways, I see him as sort of a younger, like a child in the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think he's had a harder time wrestling with it
Mm-hmm.
because he's still in that sort of black and white, like if you
Okay.
do this, then these blessings will come. I don't know. I think it just really pushed me into a deeper faith and a trust in God that
Mm-hmm.
he knows my daughter and everything in the end will be fair.
Mm.
That's
I
my
really
belief.
appreciate you opening up your heart and sharing. It's not just your story, but it's your family's story in part, and contributing to this normalization that our stories are all so different, so varied in how they look in real life. And it's like you read my mind. I was going to ask if you felt comfortable speaking to this, this idea that your beliefs are possibly different now than what your daughter's beliefs are. You've said she stepped away from the church and what that kind of a discussion looks like. And you said that she respects your beliefs and then it's obviously returned on your part. What do you think has made that space possible for you? Like if there were families that were listening to this episode that find similarities in their reality. I mean, you're definitely a mixed faith family, right? I think we all are, to be honest. If we all were to wear our hearts on our sleeves and share, our true thoughts and what's on our minds and things that bring us happiness, things that maybe weigh us down, I think that we would see that all of us are in varying degrees of our faith practices or our beliefs and so on. But what can you share to help others in this space that has made this type of a relationship possible, this type of a mutual respect?
Yeah. There are a couple things that come up.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is the whole idea of, like, I literally think of it as like lanes on a freeway.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm driving in my lane.
Mm-hmm.
And my lane includes my relationship with God or deity, my practice is like, if I just contain it into that, just me and God, that's part of my lane, right? But just like when we're on the freeway and we want to switch lanes, I got to like look around and see, is there someone there? I don't want to hurt anyone else. And their lane is their relationship with God. So I'm being a little bit repetitive here, but for me, it was like, it was a relief to think of it this way, to be like, oh, I can have a relationship with God and I can have a relationship with them, but the two don't really have to mix, right? They can have a relationship with God and that's their thing. And that was real. I think for some people that is confusing, but for me, it was like, oh, all I have to do is have my relationship with God. And then I just have to love her, right? I have to like look in my blind spot, see if there's a car there, speed up or slow down or wait for them to pass. Like it just seemed so possible, right? That it's none of my business what my daughter, her faith journey looks like. And I think a lot of parents think that it is their business, right? Now, I do think it's my business to teach my children the things that I believe. One of my thoughts is that the world is pretty not believing of God or deity in general. And so if that's all they get, they're not really given agency or choice. And so I do think it's my job to teach them there is a God and this is what I believe about a God and here are all the tenets and all of that. But once we've done that, then we have to kind of step back and let them take their journey, right? So that is one thing that comes up, that for me, it just was pretty easy to stay in my lane and to have my relationship with God and to have my relationship with her, and that they didn't have to be connected to each other. And I don't know if that's necessarily easy for everyone. I think my own journey, stepping away from the church and coming back and being more conscious in it, helped me see that really everyone has that journey, whether they see it or not. And so really, in a way, I think it's good to allow. I mean, I also have, my son is like a Peter Priesthood. He's like,
Tell us what you
everyone
mean
should
by
be
that.
well, he just loves the church, wants to be in the church, wants to follow the rules, has very high moral standards, is very comfortable in, he's similar to me in this way, in a conservative Christian religion.
Structure and that kind of thing. Yeah.
And he's also pretty judgmental of other people who believe differently. And so I work a lot with him. He just hasn't quite left that black and white area of belief yet. And I try to push him a little into the gray, right?
Yeah.
So I have the whole range.
Yeah, you too.
Right? My middle child is sort of like teetering. Like she's somewhere, she still goes to church, but I don't know how strong her testimony is or how much desire there is there. So I have one that has completely stepped away, one that's completely in and wants to be in, and one that's somewhere in the middle. And I mean, I personally
have the whole
I have the whole spectrum.
Yeah, you do.
And I just think it's fascinating, right? To watch everyone has their own journey, and that I think the more we can let our relationship with God be our relationship. And I even say this, like when I open my scriptures, I am not taking a scripture and telling anyone, you should do this. The scriptures are for me to apply to myself. Which is important. Yeah.
Yeah, that's important.
So I think if we did more of that,
that
there would be more of understanding and kindness. Grace. Yeah, just it would be easier.
So what you're saying is kind of leading into this next question I have for you. And that is, I have found that really seeking and noticing and celebrating these moments of bliss that occur naturally as I have, taken the reins of my own spiritual journey, whether that's, self-differentiation or increased spiritual autonomy or sovereignty. Those are what really sustain me. And so I'm curious, you've alluded to this a little bit, where and how have you found new joy or life or rebirth in your spirituality as you have, you know, stepped into some the unknown, uncertainty, and been, I'll say, rewarded. That's not really what I'm trying to say. You've been given these opportunities, these moments of bliss and joy.
Yeah, actually, I think the answer to that question is the second thing that came up for me
Okay.
is that faith is comfortable for me. The not knowing
Mm-hmm.
and believing that God has it all under control and that he will be kind and merciful and fair to all of us. Anytime there's like I wonder what about that. I wonder what's going to happen about this other thing. I'm just like, I don't know. And I'm perfectly comfortable not knowing.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly comfortable deferring to a God who I believe is more powerful and all knowing and kind and gracious and all of those things. So I think not everyone is.
Yeah.
A lot of people are uncomfortable in the not knowing, in the unknown.
Yeah.
And I think that's, I mean, it's not easy for me necessarily, but it's comfortable. And as I've practiced it more and more, it's become
Right.
more and more comfortable. So a lot of things that I'm like, well, I kind of think this might happen in the future, but I don't really know.
Yeah.
I just let it be God's.
Yes. There's definitely some muscles there to be developed that it takes in order to be tolerant of uncertainty. Yeah.
Yes. And
I'm
I think
definitely
that,
more comfortable with uncertainty than I ever used to be
yes.
before. Yeah.
And I always say this is faith. This is exercising faith.
Right.
It's having a thing, not
Right.
necessarily knowing, moving forward anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm very comfortable in that. And so that's
Mhm.
kind of the second thing. It's almost like I would say it letting God be in his lane,
Yeah.
right? Like his business is his business.
True.
Um,
Yeah. The opposite of faith is not certainty, but I think we are often raised with that idea in mind. However we get it can vary, but yeah, I've learned that the opposite of faith is actually doubt. It's healthy to have doubts and questions. They're two sides of the same coin.
yeah, I kind of think faith is probably the hub and there are multiple opposites of it. So
It's
that's
an
how I
interesting
think of it.
philosophy. I've never heard that one before.
Yeah, I think the same with love. There are multiple opposites of love, which is another thing. I think, honestly, I think I'm here to love. Like part of my personal purpose on earth is to learn how to love and share love and be love. And all of these experiences that I've had with my kids and my
Yeah.
husband and my parents and my grandparents has all just shown me or given me opportunities to love. And sometimes I've missed the opportunities. Sometimes I have not done well with them. But I think the older I get, the more experience I get, the more I'm like, oh, this is just another opportunity for me to love. Oh, this is just an opportunity for my love to deepen. And for me, like love and contentment are joy. That's like, I think it would be interesting to have a conversation maybe a different time about like what really is joy and how do we see that and
Yeah.
how does it feel? And I think it's different for everyone. But for me, joy is like that sort of low level, everything is okay, everything is
Mm-hmm.
right. I love my life, I love my people. And that, like that comfort in the unknown has led me to be able to be more loving and to
Mm.
have those moments more.
And
I
you and
kind
I
of,
we've talked about your work in recent conversations, that you're truly trying to embody this in your work as a life coach and in your programs. Or am I
yeah,
remembering correctly our
no,
discussion?
yeah, I really am. It's not necessarily in my marketing, it's kind of more in my messaging.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't think anybody would
Yeah.
think it'd be an effective marketing tool. Hey, I'm embodying love.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, it is like I have had some spiritual experiences where I have felt messages from the divine, like part of my purpose is to help particularly women. My brain keeps wanting to go to like teenagers and children and, other demographics, but then my spirit keeps coming back to like women and mothers to be a model of love and also just to offer love and to offer this idea of like holding space, which is a lot of what I do as a coach. But I think we need more of it outside of coaching and therapy and circles where
Sure.
we assume space is being held. I just think we need more tolerance for everybody's experiences and emotions and thoughts.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm really good at that.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah, you are. And thank you for being a part of that, contributing to creating those safe spaces. But yeah, I've learned that those have to be actively created, and they start by somebody being brave and creating brave spaces that can hopefully then transform into more safe spaces. And you're definitely doing that. So the last question I like to ask all of my guests reflects the title of my podcast. And that is, what does living beyond the shadow of doubt mean to you?
Yeah, I really had to think about this question. And what I came to is that I think to me it means living unshamed. Like wherever you are, whatever your
Love
faith
that.
journey or how you feel or what you think, that there's validity in it. And that, like, because you feel that way or think that way, there really is no shame in it. It's just your personal journey. And I think shame is such an obstacle to so
Mm-hmm.
many of us.
Mm-hmm. I
I mean,
agree.
part of me was like, is there really even living beyond the shadow of a doubt?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what
And
I
that's
came
what I
to is
love.
that,
That's why I like to
yeah,
open this conversation, because doubt has, you know, traditionally been cast in such a negative light. And I just love exploring, what does it actually mean? And when someone says, I know such and such thing beyond the shadow of a doubt, what is it they're really saying? And is that really possible? Or just, I love just
yeah.
having conversation, trying to open up productive dialogue around these concepts that we've given so much power to.
So, yeah, I think when someone says that, I think what it means is I do not feel ashamed of my belief or my feeling in this thing.
Yeah, that's a great point. I've not heard it described that way. So, um, I want to leave your contact info in the show notes so that folks, if they wanted to reach out to you with questions or, interested more about your work, what would be the easiest way for them to do that?
Yeah, honestly, probably the easiest way is to email me, podcast@denitabremer.com.
Okay.
I have a website, denitabremer.com. There's contact info on there. Can explore more about what I offer.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always 100% up to date, but it is probably good to know that I am not on social media this year.
Yes.
I may return in the future. I have not
Right.
decided yet. But I also do want to mention that I have my own podcast. It's
Yes, please
called If
do.
I'm So Blessed, Why Can't I Feel Good? So
Mm-hmm.
you can get to know me a
So
little
that
bit
would
more
be a
over
way
there.
to definitely connect with you. We'll make
Yeah.
sure and leave that in the show notes. So I just have a few for fun questions to throw out, just looking for 1 to 2 word answers so we can just get to know you a little better. Tell us your favorite book, or a favorite book if one is too hard.
It's going to be cliche, but I love Harry Potter.
It's not, it is fun. It's kind of timeless. Tell
Yes.
us, are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I'm an introvert.
I think I knew that. And tell us who your favorite artist is.
Ooh, favorite artist. I don't have like a favorite famous artist, but my daughter is an artist, so I'll just
That
say her.
works. That works. Is she paint, sketch, musician?
Oil painting is her medium.
Oil painting. Love it. Okay, are you a night owl or morning lark?
I'm a night owl who wants to be a morning lark.
I relate to that.
Yeah.
Okay, and tell us your celebrity crush if you have one.
Oh, celebrity crush. I've not really ever been a person who has had celebrity crushes, partly because between the ages of 9 and 14, I lived without electricity. So we didn't have TV during those very important years. But if I had to pick one, I might say Pierce Brosnan.
Okay,
That tells you a lot about my type in men.
That works. Do you do still or carbonated water or diet soda or some other fun beverage? What's
Still
yours?
water almost 100% of the time.
Good for you. And then finally, the furthest place you've traveled.
We lived in Europe for a year.
Fun.
So the furthest place I've traveled, I'd have to look at a map, but it might be Greece or Croatia. I don't know which one is further
I'm not
east.
sure which is further.
Yeah.
They're so close together, but they both sound like fun places to visit. I haven't yet. Hope to. Well, Denita, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for making time in your schedule, being flexible, and meeting with me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been lovely.
It has. Writer, teacher, author, Mormon scholar, and founder of Dialogue Journal, Eugene England said, "My faith encourages my curiosity and awe. It thrusts me out into relationship with all creation and encourages me to enter into dialogue." As a proud member of the Dialogue Podcast Network, my hope is that Living Beyond the Shadow of Doubt podcast is an extension of that vision. Hopeful Spaces is a Dallas Hope Charities component of Hopeful Discussions, sponsored by Mercedes-Benz Financial Services USA. It's a free monthly parent, ally, or caregiver support group facilitated by Megan Skidmore Coaching. Email chc@dallashopecharities.org for more info. Visit meganskidmorecoaching.com to find this podcast and additional free resources, including the link for a complimentary coaching session. Follow me on Facebook or Instagram for more, or to send me a DM. Help the podcast grow. Please follow, review, and share with a friend.